were homeless before the COVID and after the COVID? How many families have?
Actually, before COVID, we were doing some reconstruction in the building
Mm-hmm.
because at that point we were only able to keep 3 families up to 7 people. So that was only 21 people in the building that were being served.
Oh, okay.
But now, as of September, we are now serving 6 families, and it's a total of 36 people at one time. We have been constantly full, which is pretty normal until the middle of January. And in the middle of January, the families that were in our program, because you can only stay in the program for up to 3 months,
Okay.
they had gone through the things they were responsible to do in order to get new housing or a new job or get into school. Um, in the middle of January, we had a real like low spell that we had maybe 2 families at the most for about almost a month, and we were getting nervous because we are funded according to how many people we're serving. But then kicked in again maybe the end of February, and we're good again. We're solidly full.
Oh, okay. Now, is there a waiting list, and when you are over there, do you recognize that some of the families are getting frustrated because they can't afford the rent, or there's the schools are too high, or and what? How did it makes you feel, and what? How do they show that they're angry?
Okay, so first of all, they come to us already frustrated because they've either lost their home, they've been evicted, maybe they were in a fire and they have nowhere else to live. They don't have, couldn't get an apartment or things together in time. So it's an emergency case. Um, some of them are coming in from other states, and they are not to be confused with refugees. They're just homeless people coming in from other states, and they have to go through all the paperwork in order for New York State to kick in. So when they come to us, the first place they go to is DSS, Department of Social Services, and they get a caseworker. And that caseworker will go through an 18-page interview to be sure that they're not on drugs or are not alcohol addicted, to be sure that there's no violence, any kind of domestic violence. If there is domestic violence, they are automatically put into a different type of shelter. With Family Promise, we are the only shelter of I'm sorry, we're one of two. The other one is the Salvation Army, but we keep the families together, all in the same building. All in the family units stay in the same bedrooms. Where at the Salvation Army, once you have a child that I believe is 12 and over, if it's a male child, they split the male from the females. Um, so a lot of times they'll come from the Salvation Army to us because it's like, how can you leave a 12-year-old boy away from the rest of his family?
Right, right.
So, of course, there's frustration there. There's frustration in just not maybe losing some of their funding or losing their food stamps or their WIC. And a lot of times it's because they have not taken the responsibility to be on task for those things. So when they come in, yes, they're frustrated. And sometimes, like that first week, they're really frustrated and really miserable. And we just try to be as loving and as patient as possible because they need to get used to our situation of how we run things, of our rules and regulations. And once they get into the swing of things, then they realize that we're there to help them. And that 3 months, we help them right from clothing to furniture to getting a new apartment or a house. It's helping them to fish, but not fishing for them. So in other words, we're helping them do the work to get to through those steps in order to leave the shelter and hopefully go on to being successful. But we do keep track of them for at least 1 year. Um, Sometimes it's a little longer. We've had families, like larger families, that we keep track of them longer. That if they have needs in the middle of the year, sickness or anything like that, we're always there for them to call us, and then we try to. If we can't help them, then we try to get them in the right direction for the help they need.
Oh, okay. So you said a lot about, I mentioned frustration and domestic violence. Have you ever had a family who just slipped through the cracks or they passed the interview and came in and started hitting or abusing?
Yes, and that was families that have lied. And the minute that that happens, we do not tolerate it and we have them removed from the shelter. And the way that happens is we call the caseworker downtown.
Mm-hmm.
We let them know that there's violence. And then sometimes the police are involved. Sometimes um, family services are involved. Sometimes, what do you call it? Oh my gosh, for the kids.
CPS.
CPS, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, we do not tolerate violence at all.
Now, I know we talked about the client, the tenants over at the shelter.
Mm-hmm.
What about the staff? Have you ever had staff, looked at staff, or found out staff wasn't a really good fit with other staff, with the clients?
Um,
And why, how, and why?
Years ago we did. Years ago we didn't have as much one-on-one and as much involvement with the families. Um, Now because it's a 24/7 type of experience for them, and for the employees, we have a constant flow of employees that are all every single day we have to open up their shift book. We put down what we have gone through the day. It could be just a nice, easy, smooth day, or maybe there was an altercation, or maybe somebody didn't do their chore. And sometimes the families or the staff, there's just a personality conflict, but personality is no reason for any kind of violence or to
Mm-hmm.
have them removed or to have a staff person lose their job. We just we talk everything out. But I would say in the last couple years we have never had that
Okay, I'm blessed.
experienced.
I'm blessed.
Okay.
Okay, so the pandemic and you have some
Asia, the
experience with the
TV.
homelessness, even though you wasn't homeless all the time, like what?
On and off through years, when I have a good input on the homeless and what it's about to experience. Could you turn
When
it?
you were in the shelters, how did you feel that you was treated depending on in the shelter?
Could you turn the TV down? You know, like I was basically incarcerated, like I was in jail. It's funny. You gotta have some type of law or some type of order in any institution, but like a lot of places don't treat them too good, There's a lot of people, they are mentally ill, so
You
they
gotta.
get treated like a kid,
Oh wow.
basically, and it's sad. It's really sad because it's a lot of people that's in that position, been in that position for years.
Right.
And I met a lot of people that want to be home. Yeah, because they don't want to deal with society. Something traumatic
Beat it.
happened.
Beat it.
I met a man, he lost his wife and his kids in a fire. He just gave up on life instead of committing suicide. He just walked from shelter to shelter. Yeah. I met a lot of people, especially when you work That's a lot of homeless people have jobs. They just can't afford an apartment at the time. They don't want to be in a position like that. And, you gotta follow the rules. You're tired. You can't go to sleep when you want to. They might not have. Sometimes you might get off of work and come to the shelter, and then there's no bed because you gotta get to the shelter, certain shelters in an X amount of time, or your bed will be taken. You know. So that leaves you either at a friend house or a relative or the park bench, basically the bus stop. Me and my girlfriend, we had to sit on the bus stop quite a few times. Especially with the pandemic, a lot of people don't want you in their house, and that's hard too. And that definitely was hard, definitely. But thanks to the city of Buffalo, they had shelter for the homeless during this pandemic. A big gym, school gym, ECC gym they used. And they had a whole bunch of cots. And you wasn't allowed to go outside. You could go outside, but you was only allowed to go outside for 2 hours out the day. And then you get tested. The shelter is pretty good on safety though, I can say that. Very good on safety.
So if somebody was homeless in the pandemic, had nowhere to go, exhausted all their rights at the shelter, what would you tell them?
What I would tell them is, that's hard because I've been there. Depending on the weather, you could go sleep outside or call 211 and hopefully they could get you a hotel for the night. Or usually what they would do, if 211 would do, is they will give you bus fare. If you can't get a shelter here in Erie County, they'll put you on a bus and go to another county, like Marion County.
So
They will 211 emergency helpline. They will find you somewhere to go.
okay. I know a lot of people that I know call 211 and they're not helping people without a photo ID or didn't help people.
They pick and choose. They race. It's a lot of racism going on too in the homeless shelters. Like shelters in the white neighborhood will only accept white people. That goes on. They get all the best food, clothes. The more people of color in the black neighborhoods, Hispanic neighborhood get all old food, or the staff in the shelters in the black neighborhood steals the donations. I want to talk about that too. There's a lot of stealing on donations in the shelters, especially in Buffalo. Money, clothes. Half the time the homeless people don't even get the clothes that's donated to them. Half the time the homeless people in the shelters don't even get the brand new clothes. Or the food. The staff takes the food.
Do you think that
Especially the Buffalo City Mission, one of the crookedest shelters in the city of Buffalo. They run that place like a prison institute. I want to get on that. The Buffalo City Mission. Yes. They're crooked. I can honestly say that. You have to pay for a bed. Say if you're working. This is what the city mission does. If you're working a job, they charge you almost $500-$600 a week for a bed. How can you pay for a bed if you're homeless? You're supposed They supposed to assist you to get housing. They don't. You working, they charge you $500 at least a week for a bed. The Buffalo City,
A
Michigan.
month or a week?
A week. If you're not working, you get a 123 form, and that's a pink form you take down to the welfare, and they'll pay your bed, and they charging the city to house homeless people. The city mission. Yeah, it's big money in the homeless business. Homeless make a lot of money off these people. A lot of money off people hardship. I just used to be in there and just used to shake my head and be like, because I know anytime I was in the shelter, it was temporary. But I've seen a lot of people been there for years and get abandoned. A lot of people mentally ill, their checks is getting taken from them. Or the mental order, and let's talk about that. A lot of homeless people, because they're mentally ill, and the hospital just lets these people out in the public. And where else are they gonna go in a shelter? So you don't know what type of person you sitting next to in the shelter, because the mental hospitals just let these people out in the public.
So you brought up a good point about the mental, people being mentally ill in the hospital. Do you think that the hospitals, the mental hospitals, don't want to help you and just force everything on the shelters, or just?
That's exactly what happens. They overwhelm, or their insurance is not paying for their stay no more in the hospital, so they get released out to the public, regardless if they're a threat to you or themselves. And a lot of mentally ill people is on drugs too. They need help, but you can't force nobody to get help.
No, you can't.
You can't. So it's the situation is, but they helping out a lot now. The past year or two, there's a lot of housing, like where I live at. It's a low income housing. I finally got a house apartment due to being homeless. The city of Buffalo helped me out a lot. Helped me out with my rent. Best Self, everybody check out Best Self. And Matt Urban, they the best. If you need help, assistance, homeless, housing, care coordinator, doctor, Best Self will help you out and get you. There's no reason to be homeless nowadays. There's too many outlets that's going to help you. The city is doing very good with housing the homeless. I can't say that. Everything else I mentioned, that was like maybe two years ago. Buffalo has stepped it up in the past year with the housing. I can say that.
So do you think that even though they stepped it up and they're not as bad as it was 2 years ago, you think some of that still lingers, or is
Oh, it definitely does. But I'm not seeing as many homeless people no more. A lot has housing. Like this is an old grammar school, this apartment building. They turned this whole old school into low income housing.
now, is this apartment just for homeless, or is anybody that got
Just for homeless people, low income, not just homeless, low income, below minimum wage. Below what's the below poverty level.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving us this insight about the pandemic and homeless overall. But like I see that you're in a homeless facility. So
No, it's an apartment building, but it's for the people that don't make 30,000 a year.
oh yeah.
Low income. not homeless, low income.
Okay.
You know, that can't afford a $700-800 one bedroom. You know, people that, you know, like that get disability, SSI, only working minimum wage, and only getting like 35 hours a week. Like me, for instance, I pay child support. That hinders me from taking on and getting a apartment, paying my mom. So I fit the criteria for low income poverty level right now. I bring in less than 30,000 a year, about 20,000 a year. That's low income, below poverty. That's the government will help you and housing. Your income is that low.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes.
You can stop it, press the word. Begin.
Look at you showing that butt. The diaper is sagging.
How do you stop it?
See.
And
See
you
this?
looking at your